And we're live. Welcome, welcome everybody. My name is Pierre-Etienne. I'm the founder of the Healing Studio Online. And welcome to this live talk on post-traumatic growth. That's right. Today, I'm going to discuss with my colleague Amari, who's a pain management coach, the concepts of post-traumatic growth. Many of us are familiar with post-traumatic stress or PTSD. And we're here to let you know that there's actually a flip side to that coin. So we get started in about a minute. Set yourself up, grab a little water. We'll be here for approximately 20 to 30 minutes discussing post-traumatic growth, what it is, what it's not. Is there any way to promote that growth? What is there to learn from suffering, etc., etc., etc. So, if you're ready and you're set, just take a couple of breaths. It may have been a long day, maybe starting your day right now, regardless of where you're at. It's always good to take a breath or two. And here is Amari. She's joining us right now. And here she is.
Hi.
Hi, Amari.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. Sorry I'm a bit late. I had to go back online because I thought we were on Healing Studio Online today.
Oh, yes, we should have been on Healing Studio Online today. My bad.
No worries.
You know what?
We've
post
got
it
some
there as
joiners
well.
and we'll repost it.
Yes, thank you. Lesson learned. And welcome to the viewers. Hi, Olfat. Long time. It's good to see you. Hi, Yasmin. Welcome, welcome. So again,
Hi, everyone.
let's start with a nice, slow, deep breath, as always. All right, and so today we are going to talk about post-traumatic growth. So let's, Amari, would you like maybe briefly just introducing yourself, just so people know who you are, where we're coming from, what's going on with us?
Oh, yeah. Thank you. So my name is Amari. I am a chronic pain coach. I help those with chronic pain better manage their stress, help that nervous system come down and get back into that healing mode. And I also help people with TMS, reverse TMS diagnosis. I'm really excited to be here. I'm excited to speak with you, Pierre, and I love the work that you do with your audience. Thank you.
It's mutual, my friend. Thank you for being here. And so today we're going to talk. We're in conversations with Amari around, what would be relevant. And I'd like to once again renew our invitation to our viewers here. If there are any question, any topic you'd like us to cover, we'd be more than happy to discuss it live. As a reminder, my name is Pierre-Etienne and Amari. I'm the founder of the Healing Studio Online, on which these talks are usually held every Tuesdays at 8 a.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Cairo/Paris time, no, Cairo time actually. And I'm a mind-body practitioner specialized in helping people to regulate their nervous system using mind-body practices. So practices that are safe, self-managed, non-pharmacological. And the conversation around post-traumatic growth, I think came up because I think it was last week where we finished a 6-week class. For those of you who don't know, I'm facilitating classes and group programs for people dealing with a cancer diagnosis. I've been doing that for the past 8 years. And one of the programs I've developed is called Healing and Learning from Cancer, a 6-week program to facilitate post-traumatic growth. And it's something that came out of actually research that during which I was a co-investigator at Huntington Hospital in Pasadena, California. We were doing a lot of good work with people dealing with cancer, and we're noticing really some powerful statements, some powerful learning from this experience. I know one of the most surprising statement I heard when I started to work in this field with people living with HIV many years ago was, HIV is the best thing that ever happened to me. And I've heard that for a lot of other issues. Oh, cancer is actually, I'm so glad this happened to me. And so on and so forth. And that was a thoroughly unexpected, surprising statement.
Yeah.
Eventually, right, I started to look into the research. And again, research is not the only way, right, to study. I think traditions and traditional practices are very important. But when it comes here to, since I was working in a hospital and I'm still working online in hospital setting, right, the language that we use is a language of research. Yeah. And so we said, okay, let's do an 8-week research program on how to facilitate post-traumatic growth. At that time, we said using hypnotherapy, so there were again mind-body practices for people with a cancer diagnosis. And actually, at the end of the 8 weeks, everybody was like, "Can we just continue?" And actually, that research ended up being like a year of research with monthly meetings, and we continued to work together and to grow together. And that was a fascinating experience. Something so that research was done with Susie Klein, who's a fantastic nurse practitioner, PhD at Huntington Hospital. Was the head of the integrative oncology department, and that research gave birth eventually to that program, which you attended,
yeah,
Amari, right?
Yeah.
So this past month and a half. So having said that, setting that context here, the big question here is really, what is post-traumatic growth? Right? What, and why aren't we talking more about post-traumatic growth? Because a typical question I would ask people when we start that program is, how many of you are familiar with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder? And a good 90 to 95% of people will raise their hands, right? And I would even do the same right now for your viewers. Have you heard about post-traumatic stress disorder, post-traumatic stress? Most people are familiar. Right? And when we ask, well, are you familiar with post-traumatic growth? People are like, not really.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can figure things out, right? People can figure things out and deduct what we're talking about. But interestingly, that's not something that's much talked about. Even though that's actually part of that's an experience that many of us have had. I'd love to hear in a few moments, potentially your experience, any potential growth. And so here, just to make sure that we know what we're talking about, when we talk about post-traumatic growth, what are we talking about? We're talking about the fact that even though there are negative effects, physical, mental, emotional, psychological, spiritual, right? To a traumatic experience, paradoxically, there's also a learning experience. There's a growth. It's an opportunity to rise to a higher level of functioning, and to simplify things, and to quote, and to end it there before I hand it over to you, to quote one of my mentors, Mrs. Kevin Duffel from Lumos Transforms. It's not about bouncing back. It's about bouncing forward.
Yeah.
Right? It's about bouncing forward. So what is if I may, if we were to go a little bit more personal here, right? Because we can talk about research, we can talk about the fact that yes, since the mid-90s, finally research is catching up on things that people have known since the the beginning of mankind, which is like when we go through tough things, what doesn't kill us, right? Makes us strong, right? And so, and that's the idea. So I'm just curious, Amari, what if you'd like to maybe share a little bit about your own personal experience of learning and healing and growth from your own personal challenges.
Thank you, Pierre. Yes, definitely. And what really resonates with me about what you said is a lot of people know, 95% of people will raise their hand and say that they know what PTSD is. But what I find is that many people relate PTSD to if you were in the army, if you suffered this great trauma that had to do with war. And that was the only context that I really learned PTSD when I was in school, talking about history and middle school, high school. But what I learned as a health coach and as a life coach and studying more into chronic pain was that PTSD can come from stress, it can come from chronic pain, it can come from a diagnosis and illness, it can come from loss of a job, from any instability in the life, right? And many times, especially I know we've talked about this before in previous chats, is that we live in a society where everyone says just be positive, just keep pushing forward. And many times when I work with people, especially with TMS and also with chronic pain in the physical therapy setting and coaching settings, is that they just try, we all, because I'm guilty of it too, when I was first going through my chronic pain journey, is that I didn't realize that chronic pain could be something that results to PTSD. I didn't realize at the time, and we're going to talk about this more, but I didn't realize certain things in the life, even if they're a big T trauma or a small T trauma, I didn't even know that that difference existed. So I just invite the audience to be open to the idea of having experienced PTSD. It doesn't have to come from war, it doesn't have to come from something grand, but also know that it can come from smaller T traumas that we experience every day or every single year of our lives. So just to have that patience with yourself and realize that you don't always have to be positive. I don't always have to be positive. I can recognize that there was a trauma or there was a stressor or a stressful event that happened in my life that caused PTSD, and that also led to post-traumatic growth, that also led to a spiritual alignment with my mind and body. So just wanted to tap into that quickly before we get started.
And if I may just say, and it may also result from living for a year and a half in a constant state of fear, being told that you're about to die. Right? I just want to slip it in there because I'm dealing with so many clients who were dealing with some minor issues that have become major issues because at some point, right, fear takes a toll. Anyway, sorry for the interruption.
No, not at all. I'm so glad that you mentioned that because it's very important that people give themselves space, that we all give ourselves space to heal. And I have learned that there has to be a practice of recognizing who I am, what I'm going through in order for me to keep growing and bounce forward, like you mentioned before. So for me, post-traumatic growth. We want to talk about my own personal experience.
Well, let's go for it. Like I know you've shared before some of you had an accident that created some severe pain, and I trust there were other challenges in your life. But I'm curious for you, what was the learning? Right. I trust there was a learning from that. Having been in conversation with you now for a little while. And so what was the learning? What did it look like? And how did it change you?
Right. So I will briefly, if anyone is new to this chat or hasn't seen our previous chats on Healing Studio Online, is that I had an accident 4 years ago that led to chronic pain. That I had the accident, I had the injury of back and neck injuries and hips, and it led to chronic pain. And reflecting on last week and the week before, because we had a 2-part series on spiritual connection and healing, is that I realized that I was ignoring myself. And there's a beautiful thing in suffering, because it caused me to stop in my tracks and look at my life and see I was not aligned with my values. And in order for myself to heal, I had to realign with who my true self is, or was at the time, and recognize what it was going to take for me to heal, not physically, but emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. And I was stuck in a place when that chronic pain developed, was because I was working in a job that I didn't care for at all. It had nothing to do with my values, but I got in this sense of catastrophizing and recognizing, oh, if I don't make this amount of money, then my whole life will fall to shambles and I won't have this, this, and this. And when the pain set on, it helped me reflect and say, wow, this job has caused me not to go to school as often as I could, or I wasn't focused as much on my priorities that really meant something to me and my future. I was missing out on social activities and losing relationships, and it wasn't okay. And I was ignoring myself. And that growth happened when I was able to realign myself, reflect on what was happening, then realize there needed to be a realignment. And then I need to center myself around my values. And that took a very long time. It's not as simple as I just said. So it took me to change my life and take out of the things that didn't matter to my life, realign myself with, oh, I really love to spend time with my loved ones. And I haven't prayed in a while. And when I had this accident, I asked myself, why me? I asked God, why me? And I was a victim in my life, and I had no control over where my life was going. As far as when I finally got that post-traumatic growth, my mindset changed to thank you for this understanding. Thank you for this suffering, because now I understand who I am. Now I understand where I'm supposed to be and where I'm supposed to be headed. Now I understand, and I can value the things that really align with my core self and my core values, as far as being able to appreciate my family and friends, and find this beauty and healing. And I've become obsessed with it, and it's become my whole life. And I've reached goals that I didn't even think of before, because I was so stressed and I wasn't really aligned with myself, and I wasn't caring for myself. So that was a really big thing, really centering myself back with my values.
You know, that's almost that's funny and ironic, but somehow nobody, like, there's always needs some level of adversity for us to seek growth. Like, nobody ever said everything is going great right now, I'm going to challenge myself, right? This is not how it works. And so when we talk about post-traumatic growth, or when we talk about the transformational power of pain and suffering and adversity, the words that resonated with me is, you know, that realignment with who I am, who I want to be, and there's almost an awakening. That's the other word that comes up for me, and I've been I feel so blessed and grateful, you know, to have witnessed in the past 17 years, people telling me exactly what I was not expecting, which, as mentioned previously, was like, wow, you know, that challenge actually woke me up, because I was in the days, I was just like, you know, get up, get to work. I don't really like it, but this is what it is. And and then eventually, like, growing numb. At some point, it's almost like life is just like, what? Just wake up. Is that really what you want? And I remember working like many years ago, working specifically, I think I may have mentioned that, with people dealing with substance abuse. And when I was working with people in recovery, I was like, wow, these guys are really wise. There was like so much wisdom emanating from these guys who have been living in the street. And I was coming with all my preconceived ideas. And then I realized that there was so much wisdom in their healing and in their realignment. There was so much depth in how they were engaging with life. And so what I want to remind myself and everybody here is that when that post-traumatic growth is unfortunately doesn't come as a package, right? I wish I could say, well, you had a traumatic experience, ta-da, you know, it like there's a special bonus. That'd be, you know, that'd be funny, but disrespectful also to your pain and what you've been through. We're not saying, well, good thing you went through that. We're not saying that. We're saying you went through that. Mm-hmm. And starting from that place of acceptance, mm-hmm. which I hear a lot in my groups, which is like, you know, I'm fighting, I don't want to accept it happened. And little by little, when we get to that place of like, no, actually it happened. Yeah. And the old version of me is gone. Yeah. Right? The old version of me is gone, and the question is like, who am I right now? Right. And as scary as it may be, what a powerful place to be. Mm-hmm. In terms of like, how do I want to engage with life? And when we look at post-traumatic growth, typically there's different areas of change, right? We're talking about primarily changing in terms of how we see ourselves, and the typical change would be like, I'm actually stronger than what I thought, right? Mm-hmm. I'm actually more compassionate, right? And so on and so forth. We start to see ourselves differently. Second, there is a change in how we engage with others in our relationships. How many people told me, well, I'm going to tell that person that I love him or I love her, or I'm going to tell that person to get the heck out, right? Yeah. Because I've lost enough of my life, on that person. And so there's suddenly almost like a sense of like, okay, I'm not invisible, we're all going to die. And so I might as well just make sure that time spent on earth is spent well. Because if I'm going to die in a day, in a month, in a year, I just want to make sure that, like you said, I'm aligned with my values. Mm-hmm. And so change of self, change in the sense of self, sense of relationships, and philosophy of life. And you've alluded to that, you've mentioned, right, that potential spiritual growth that may happen, that may or may not be religious, but that often there's a sense of struggling with these existential questions. Why am I here? Why me? What now? Like, what is my purpose, right? Am I really designed to just get up, go to work, type that report, and come home? Am I fulfilled? Is it what it's about? Or is there more to it? And how many people have I heard telling me, like, I quit my job. That's what I did. You're one of them, right? Like, so I quit my job. I'm resuming my studies. I'm taking that trip, and so on and so forth. And for me, as we're slowly coming close to the end of this conversation, maybe to be continued next week, that's almost my hope, and you may have sensed my frustration and anger when it comes to the fear that is being instilled in people for the past year and a half. And this is not a political statement. I don't mean to be controversial. I'm just saying that as a practitioner working on nervous system regulation, we are messing things up, right? We're not having a good approach and a healthy approach, and we're setting ourselves up and our children, right, for a lot of for hours of therapy. So having said that, I'm also seeing, as people are building resources, as people, like you said, are starting to reclaim a sense of safety, are starting to realize that, well, there are places where I don't feel safe, but there are actually places where it's okay for me to feel safe. And that I'm seeing people, and I'm mostly seeing it myself also, as an opportunity and for hope, and for people to stop wasting their time.
Right.
Because I know for me that whole COVID thing, changed my life. I moved countries. There's so many changes in my life that were completely unexpected, and I'm deeply grateful for that. And I'm also seeing that in people who are saying, both with, I want to say there's heaviness, but there's also like a sense of increased appreciation for life. Like, oof, actually, I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
And that's such a conversation, and I wish for us, I think, in the future to have that conversation around death,
Right.
and around dying, because I think we've grown. I think a couple of weeks ago we were talking about how sterile and like sterile environment we're living in, and we're becoming control freaks, and we're trying to live forever, thinking that this is it. I'm certainly hoping that there's something more beautiful than that. I'm very grateful for life, but my point is, here it's an opportunity to make peace with the fact that our time is limited. And I see that in people who've gone through traumatic experiences, an awareness of the fact that we are gonna die. I am gonna die, and because of that, therefore, how should I live my life?
Right. Oh, we should do another part 2. That was, we should do a part 2 on this and continue this conversation. Because I went through pain and didn't see it as a trauma at first. And for the longest, what you said, step 2 is the change that we see in ourselves. And I truly at my worst time, at my worst amount of pain, at my worst state of stress, was like, I can't survive this. I'm never going to survive this. This is it. Like, while I was in the flare up, I'm like, this is it. And I just had that growth where it wasn't it. I was stronger than what I thought. And I am stronger mentally and spiritually to move forward, and to handle that, make good decisions, and make decisions that, if I die, they're aligned with my life. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you, Amari. Thank you, everybody, for listening. If you made it all the way to the end, thank you for being here. If you have any questions, comments, or reflections, any topic that you'd like us to discuss in relation to, again, pain management, nervous system regulation, healing, and so on and so forth, please feel free to send them over to the Healing Studio online, where that video will be posted as well. Thank you so much. We'll be back next week, same time. Would you like to remind us of the December events?
Yes, December 9th, that's a Thursday at 12 o'clock p.m., noon Pacific Standard Time. We will be going live with 2 other practitioners about how you can de-stress during the holiday season. It gets really stressful for many people. I believe research says 44% of people get very high stress and experience flare-ups during the holidays. So join us, so you'll have 5 holistic tips to help down-regulate that nervous system, feel better, and truly enjoy your holiday. We hope to see you guys there. We'll post the link that is to Eventbrite soon on all of our platforms. Thank you, Pierre.
Thank you, Amari. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.